Can ADHD affect relationships? What about dating? Hi, I'm Dr. Jodi Gold, a pediatric and adult psychiatrist, here to answer some of the internet's biggest questions about ADHD and relationships. How does ADHD affect relationships? So ADHD affects all relationships. Friendships, romantic relationships, family relationships, colleagues, it affects them all. The ways in which it affects relationships is it impacts communication, impulsivity, executive functioning, poor boundary setting, and just plain getting bored and leaving relationships. But on a high note, people with ADHD are also wonderful people to have in relationships. They can be fun and fun-loving and engaging and really wonderful to be with. So my advice is, if you have ADHD, you just need to be thoughtful and intentional and really willing to stick it out and communicate with your partner. How to date with ADHD. So here are my tips for dating with ADHD. First and foremost, you need to be consistent with your communication. However, you don't need to over-text. You need to text appropriately. Secondly, when you do finally make plans, it's important to confirm the plans. And if you are late, because sometimes people with ADHD are late, it's important to text or communicate that you're going to be late. So finally, when you become comfortable in a relationship, it might be helpful to share some of your experiences with ADHD because it may allow your partner to be more patient and allow some more time to get comfortable with the relationship. But lastly, if the relationship doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that it was your fault or that it was caused by ADHD. As you know, some relationships work and some don't. Has ADHD affected your relationships? If so, leave us a comment about one of the most memorable moments in your love life. Why am I so sensitive to rejection? That's a great question and something we actually don't talk about enough. So rejection is hard for everybody, but as it turns out, people with ADHD often suffer from something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD. Now you can have rejection sensitivity without ADHD, but we often see that they go hand in hand. And what this means is that you might misinterpret things and become overly emotional about things. An example would be that someone looks at you the wrong way and you immediately become panicked that they hate you. And what your ADHD does is it gets you stuck. You're unable to zoom out and see that he looked at everybody that way, or he doesn't even know you. And then the emotions become overwhelming, and at that point, you become dysregulated. And the problem with that is that sometimes you can misinterpret the situation or overreact to the situation, and then the person may become defensive or angry, and all of a sudden, everybody's angry, insensitive, and disrupted. That's why it's important to take a step back, sometimes just take a deep breath, count to 5, see the broader picture, and maybe regulate your emotions before you go down the rabbit hole. How can you support a partner who has ADHD? So let's be clear, it's not always easy to be in a relationship with someone that has ADHD, but it can also be really rewarding. The first thing you need to do is learn about the disorder. Whether you go online or talk to family and friends, the more you can learn about it, the better. You need to understand that it's a medical disorder. It's something that nobody's fault, and as long as you acknowledge it and treat it, it can be completely managed. But it is no one's fault, so it's really important not to play the blame game. It won't take you anywhere. I like to approach relationships kind of like a team sport. Everyone has their role, and you have to assess everyone's strengths and weaknesses. So maybe your partner with ADHD is great at the big ideas, not so great at the follow-through. So maybe your job is the administrative follow-through piece. Either way, you need to communicate with each other. You need to find the roles and play to your strengths and kind of build a great team. And once you do that, it's an awesome ride. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, we actually have a lot more content like this on our channel, so make sure to subscribe. By doing so, you can help our mission at Understood, which is to make sure that the 70 million people with learning and thinking differences like ADHD and dyslexia can thrive.